Ukraine seems to have found the aggressor's sore spot. Drone raids, which paralyze the normal life of the aggressor country, cause acute discontent among the Kremlin and near-Kremlin elites. A post by the well-known Putinist Ekaterina Mizulina, who heads the so-called League of Safe Internet in Russia, but in fact is engaged in the persecution of opponents of the regime, was indicative. She complained about problems with communications and the internet, doubting the effectiveness of their jamming. It's strange, but even on Wi-Fi in Telegram, photos and videos load slowly. I won't even mention calls. Does turning off mobile internet really help solve the problem of UAVs? They jam the internet, but they fly further and further, wrote the representative of Putin's regime. In reality, jamming the internet has little effect on Russia's drone problems. In fact, it creates chaos and outrage even among pro-government activists. Mizulina's statement clearly demonstrates growing irritation even in circles close to power. At the same time, communication restrictions are becoming a widespread phenomenon. Even in Kamchatka, more than 7,000 kilometers from the front, these strict measures were introduced. And in Izevsk, due to drone attacks, residents lived without the internet for 2 weeks. Because of this, they could not find out about the raid in advance. Since Telegram did not work, there were no sirens, alerts, or SMS from emergency services. The consequences of such total shutdowns go far beyond the inability to watch videos. The normal daily life of Russians is paralyzed. It becomes impossible to order a taxi through apps, pay for purchases online, use banking services that require an internet connection, or even just contact loved ones. The entire familiar digital infrastructure on which a modern city relies collapses. In addition, Ukrainian drones have dealt a serious blow to Russian civil aviation. Thus, on May the 26th, 2024, several Russian airports, including Vnukovo, Sheremetyevo and Domodedovo in Moscow, as well as airports in St. Petersburg and Nizhny Novgorod, were forced to introduce flight restrictions or temporarily close due to the drone threat. These measures led to numerous flight delays and cancellations, causing frustration and discontent among thousands of passengers. Russian authorities were forced to admit that flight safety cannot be guaranteed, which indicates systemic problems with air defense. Thus, the war against Ukraine, which, according to the Kremlin, was supposed to bring victory and stability, is increasingly turning into chaos and inconvenience for the Russians themselves, affecting even the most privileged strata of society.
Ukraine is now producing 200,000 drones per month, the new reality of its war effort. Drone manufacturing in Ukraine has surged by 900% over the past year, reports Defense Express. Ukrainian forces have repeatedly struck Russian military, defense industry, and energy infrastructure in both occupied territories and inside Russia with drones. The ongoing air campaign is aimed at crippling Russian military logistics and its capacity to continue the war. Analytical centers, such as the Atlantic Council and Georgetown Security Studies Review, say that this rapid growth is only the first stage. The drone sector has become a key response to Russian aggression, with monthly output rising from 20,000 to over 200,000 units in just 1 year. To bolster its defense potential, Ukraine must establish long-term investment mechanisms and more actively protect its technologies with patents. Experts note that Ukraine currently files fewer patents for drone technologies than Russia or other countries, limiting its innovative defense industry prospects. Intellectual property protection, they say, is an integral part of national security. Although the study covers primarily 2022 to 2023 data, Defense Express confirms that the lack of long-term contracts and support mechanisms remains a pressing issue for many Ukrainian defense firms. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense has officially announced that the country plans to produce a total of 2.5 to 3 million military drones by 2025. Most of these drones will be FPV-type kamikaze devices and are designed to intensively strike Russian positions. Meanwhile, The Guardian notes that Kiev is not only increasing its drones, but also expanding local production of various combat technologies. By doing so, the Ukrainian army aims to strengthen its advantage on the front and block Russia's continuous attacks with a drone wall. Experts say that drone strikes on Russian positions are expected to intensify in the coming months. Putin has not yet found an effective response to this digital warfare model.
With Donald Trump finally admitting that Russia harbors ambitions beyond Ukraine, Estonia's defense ministry is bracing for what comes next, as military confrontation with Russia appears increasingly inevitable. At the recent NATO meeting in The Hague, after speaking with Zelensky, Trump openly stated that Putin's territorial goals stretch far beyond Ukraine. Euromaidan Press media outlet says, "These revelations expose Moscow's intent to destabilize its neighbors, with Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania emerging as primary targets due to their geographical vulnerability. Estonia's 183-mile border with Russia, especially near Narva, is well within reach of Russian artillery. NATO's Article 5, which mandates collective defense, faces a critical test as Russia escalates its rhetoric. Still, Moscow appears keen to avoid triggering it directly, instead opting for provocative actions masked as defensive responses. Estonia's defense minister, Hanno Pevkur, confirmed that Estonia is prepared to host F-35 multi-role stealth fighters as part of NATO's Baltic air policing mission. Euromaidan Press says, "These aircraft serve both as a deterrent and as protection for NATO airspace. Despite the F-35 not being assigned nuclear missions in Estonia, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov called it an immediate threat, framing the deployment as reckless escalation." This narrative is being amplified by Russian media, which paints NATO as the aggressor, despite having its own nuclear forces already stationed within rapid striking distance of NATO's border, 15 to 20 minutes. No nuclear warheads are stored in Estonia, unlike some NATO sites in Germany or Turkey, underscoring that the deployment is strategic rather than escalatory. Nonetheless, Russia's messaging hints at pretext building for future military action. Estonia, along with Latvia, Lithuania, Poland and Finland, is fortifying the 3,450-kilometer border with Russia and Belarus, creating a modern Iron Curtain, Euromaidan Press says. This new Iron Curtain, supplemented by anti-personnel mines after these nations left the Ottawa Treaty banning them, aims to deter Russia by making any confrontation on the ground lengthy enough for NATO's larger militaries to arrive and help. Estonia alone has invested €5.2 million in defences near Narva, including 32 bunkers, anti-tank barriers and 12 ammunition depots. The dense forests and Lake Peipus add natural obstacles along the rest of the border. In June 2025, Estonia's Storm 25 exercises involved 6,000 Estonian troops and over 10,000 NATO allies, simulating defense operations against Russian advances. Euromaidan Press says, Lithuania's defense budget is set to reach 5.5% of GDP, signaling regional urgency. While Estonia's actions are defensive, Moscow's portrayal of them as provocations raises risks of escalation. The Baltic frontier is increasingly fortified and the stakes are high. Estonia's defense is on the line, and Moscow is watching.